All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, happy to be talking to an individual set to compete at UFC London, which transpires July the 23rd. We have Jai Herbert and Kyle Nelson getting out there and testing skills, and happy to be welcoming Kyle onto the show for the first time. How are the training preparations going ahead of this one here, man? Seems like you're getting in some good Niagara region work.
Yeah, this has definitely been the best training camp so far. I think maybe moving up to 155, I probably should have done a few fights ago. But yeah, we've definitely got everything dialed in now.
Watch out, Dad.
Yeah, and I'm curious, what kind of, changes that's created in your camp? Are you finding your dietary dynamics are different, more strength and conditioning with the new weight category? Any differences like that?
Yeah, I mean, everything really. Now that I'm able to eat more, I've got more energy to basically do everything. So, I've added training sessions on top of what I normally would have done. But now, even the sessions that I already had are so much better because I'm able to eat more and, just better fueled. My runs are faster. My training sessions are harder. So everything's going to be a lot better for this fight.
Yeah, and I would think it would be cool, too, to have somebody also, trending towards, a similar fight time in their own regard, just in referencing T-Shay Guthrow. I saw that picture of you guys getting in some work. I would think that would be a cool benefit in the room. I mean, obviously different weight categories and all that, but just in the sense of, both focusing on goals at, the same kind of time and all.
Yeah, absolutely. And, training at Niagara Top Team, they've always got, people fight with fights coming up and stuff. And, people getting ready for fights. So it's always a great room full of, a lot of other pro fighters from UFC, Bellator, and then obviously a lot of the regional scene.
Yeah, and it also seems like you're working at House of Champions, too. So, two of the bigger spaces in Niagara region, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to see that for sure. And I mean, in talking about Niagara Top Team, it seemed like you were really repping and supporting at that last BTC show there. And I was noticing that you were on the very first BTC show and you got that first round victory. What's it like kind of seeing the growth of that promotion and stuff like that? And just also, I guess, in a more localized way, how did you enjoy being a fan at the show and all?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that was always kind of as I was coming up, MMA, it was difficult to get fights in Ontario, so I was generally going to the States or going over to Quebec or traveling. So it's nice to see a local Ontario MMA promotion doing well. So I try and show as much support as I can so that we have an avenue for up-and-coming fighters and other training partners to compete at.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to be looking at it for sure, but just in kind of localizing it more to your situation there. I imagine you're quite excited getting back out there. You fought out the last contract there, and I mean, close to 2 years since being out there competing now on a new 4-fight deal from what I was seeing there. How do you feel about signing the new multi-fight contract, but moreover, readying to return to competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about getting back into it. Whether it was a 4-fight deal or 5-fight deal, it doesn't really matter. I'm completely focused on this first fight, and then we'll go from there after this one. But it doesn't really matter how many fights or this or that. I just want to get in there and get fighting again.
Yeah, for sure. It's about just kind of having that focus on what's next in front of you, and to that point, you're going to be going over to UFC London there and all, and fighting a local Brit there and Jai Herbert. Do you what do you think about those different kind of dynamics, in terms of do you prefer being the away guy? Do you kind of like the home games and the partisan support, as it were? How do you feel about that kind of dynamic there for this one?
I don't notice too much of a difference, other than the travel. I'm not a huge fan of traveling. I work with the Sport Lab here in Huntsville, and they kind of put everything together for me. So we've got a great plan as far as getting acclimatized to the time difference, getting ready for the long flight and all that stuff. So none of that will affect me. It's nicer just to drive down to Toronto or to Ottawa or something and fight a little more local. But then as far as the being the away guy, the crowd isn't going to bother me. I've fought in in Mexico City before against a Mexican, and you're not going to run into many more intense fans than the Mexican fans, so it's not going to bother me at all.
Yeah, and I feel like I've heard on and off rumblings about UFC maybe doing an event in Toronto before the year is out there, and obviously not, trying to contradict the prior point of overlooking the next task there, but I imagine that would be something cool if that were to, pan out ideally there for you, like competing at a UFC Toronto-based event.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if they come to Toronto, I think I'd be one of the first guys on their list to get on there.
Just because of like what you bring to the table in terms of like your style and stuff like that, or like what specific dynamic do you mean with that?
Yeah, definitely. Like my fight style. After every fight I've done with the UFC, they always come back into the change room and say how exciting it was and how great it was to have me there, and they can't wait to have me back. So I know the UFC is a fan of my style, and now that I'm up to 155, it's I'm just going to be able to continue that exciting style and but hold it up for 15 minutes now.
Yeah, and I think it's probably also too just how game and ready you are, just with like the UFC debut being on just less than a handful of days notice there. I mean, you seem like a guy that's very game and willing to compete whenever, so I would imagine that would gain some level of favor as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if I'm coming in on 3 days notice or 2 weeks notice. I always show up and bring the fight to my opponent, so I know they appreciate that.
Yeah, but you kind of touched on just like the dynamics with like the martial arts studio there and stuff like that and everything like that. I imagine that's like a cool thing for you to do. It seemed like maybe there was initially some COVID-related troubles, maybe even like a couple of years or a year ago, but it seems like things are very much back on track. So how do you feel about that and just also being able to impart martial arts technique to others?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I get to revisit a lot of the basics. Always try and work on the basics anyways, but now I get to revisit all the basics while I'm showing them to new students and stuff. And, just try and instill some of those martial arts values in the next generation.
Yeah, I imagine that, creates a strong sense of pride in a lot of regards. Just, the community dynamics I think you would build with that kind of thing, but also even just in seeing the growth of martial artists of varying types, like whether it's like, a hobbyist coming through and they happen to like refine certain skills, or if it's like prospective fighters on the come up. I would think there's like varying instances of being proud and seeing the, I guess, lessons take hold, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we get, people from, want to learn self-defense, or they just want to get in shape, or they want to fight professionally. Like we get a whole spectrum of members, and so I get to, train the, people to be ready to pro fighters, to self-defense, and I get to, kind of explore all aspects of teaching martial arts.
Yeah, for sure. You love to see that for sure, and everything like that. But just talking about your upcoming opponent here, like in terms of, are you a guy that does a lot of tape study on your opponents? Like, are you like kind of breaking down like this guy's tape and what he's doing, or more allocating that to kind of like people in your camp and you're focusing on your own individual refinement?
A little bit of both. I mean, we're always working on myself and my game plan. I've watched my opponent's fights just to, see if there's anything that he does special or anything like that. Then I leave it to my coaches and my cornermen to watch his fights in order to build the specific game plan and what kind of, combinations we're going to throw. I think we have a good breakdown of Jai. And I think we've got the perfect game plan to beat him. And, I think it's going to be an exciting fight.
Yeah, I think you guys match up really well in a lot of regards, like similar kind of UFC arcs in a certain regard, and just like, the melding of the styles. Like on paper, one would think this would, be a potential, like, performance of the night bonus type of throwdown. Is that kind of how you're looking at it in a certain regard? Like maybe a couple extra G's going there with this one, just the opponent standing across from you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna take what he gives me. If he wants to stand and bang, I'm more than happy to do that. I think that'd be a mistake on his part, but I mean, let's do it. Let's get this bonus, and I'll take the win bonus and the performance bonus, and
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, this is going to be a great return fight coming up and everything like that. I would imagine you're excited too, just because it's been a little bit in the context of like, I mean, you probably shored up skills to a certain degree where it's almost like you're showing like that next version of yourself, like relative to the last performance. Are you kind of feeling that similar vibe? Like you're going to be showing just an entirely, I guess, new permutation of yourself once you get out there to compete?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's been 2 years since I last fought, so I've done nothing but improve over those 2 years. We saw Jai fight like 2-3 months ago, and so we know where he's at. He hasn't seen me fight in years, so he has no idea kind of the improvements and stuff that I've made. And again, the fans and the UFC don't know all I'm bringing to the table for this fight.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I was seeing in a previous article that you actually discovered MMA just kind of watching like The Ultimate Fighter with mom and everything like that. And it seems like the parents are real supportive of all that, like driving around and checking out previous fights. Are they going to be checking out this one more so at home, though, because it's an overseas one, or maybe making the trip over to kind of peep it live? Like, how's that all going to work out, you think?
No, they're going to be watching it from a local bar here in town. Moose Delaney's is going to have like a viewing party. Yeah, they'd love to come over, but you know, with the some of the restrictions as far as flying and what like the plane ticket prices are right now to go to England, it's like $1,800 or something. So yeah, it's just not feasible at this point.
I mean, you mentioned kind of like the hometown type of bar dynamic there and everything like that. When you sort of come through and interact, like, do you really feel that partisan support? Like, how much does that galvanize you and what you're doing? I would think it would, at the very least, feel pretty good to have that kind of localized support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anywhere I go in Muskoka or Huntsville, people are always saying hey and wishing me luck and, showing me a lot of support. So that definitely means a lot.
Yeah, my papa's out there in that area, Murray Payne. He lives out there and everything like that. And I've visited a couple times and seems like a really nice sort of place. So yeah, cool that you have that kind of local support and everything like that. And it seems like a nice place to relax in, especially like through the summer. Not that you're especially focused on that right now with this fight coming up, but maybe in the aftermath, I would think there's going to be a bit of that had.
Yeah, for sure. Like to come back and enjoy a little bit of the summer and relax after this one.
Yeah, no doubt, man. This is going to be a great fight to check out, though, and just, appreciate you making some time just a bit over a week out from this one. But just in wanting to be mindful of your time and everything, Kyle, is there anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, man?
I don't want to say, thanks to all my fans and friends and stuff. Thanks to my sponsors, Muskoka Renos, Sheath, Germandia Jewelry, Muskoka Martial Arts, GLC Construction, the Sport Lab, and Moose Delaney's. And again, if you're in the Muskoka area, stop by Moose Delaney's to watch my fight live for the official viewing party. And thank you for bringing me on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on and giving great insights, and I'm really going to enjoy this Jai Herbert fight coming up, and I think that's a shared sentiment, and people can check that out July the 23rd, as I said from the top, at UFC Fight Night. And yeah, just really appreciate you coming on, man, to reiterate, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day too, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot.